Wooloo is returning to the wild in Pokemon Go for the Pokemon Sleep tie-in event, and I figured now would be a great time to do the Dubwool PvP IV deep dive. Basically, take a closer look at the important stat checks and associated PvP IVs for Dubwool in both the Great League and Ultra League. If you're not too familiar with my PvP IV deep dive series, or if at any point in this video you're kind of confused what I'm talking about, I highly recommend checking out my PvP IVs simplified video, link up above and in the description. Basically, get your feet wet before you dive off into the deep end here with PvP IVs. And if you want to reference any of the material in this video in a text-based format, link down below is my article on GamePress, the Dubwool PvP IV deep dive. In this article, it covers everything I talk about here, but in a text-based format. It also features the PvP IV tables, highlighting the best PvP IVs for Dubwool, which I'll be using in this video. So if you want to check this out, linked down below. So this table here features some of the best Great League Dubwool PvP IVs. Here I have the list sorted mostly by bulk, using 128 HP as a minimum and 141.6 defense as a minimum. For the most part, Dubwool doesn't have any hard attack breakpoints in the Great League that really stood out to me, so attack really isn't that big of a concern for Dubwool. However, if you do have a little slight bit of attack, you could get a nice charge move breakpoint on Altaria, Shadow Venusaur, and Registeel, which could be relevant for those matchups. So I'd say overall I favor like having 109.3 attack a little bit more than the rank 1, but if you have the rank 1, I wouldn't sweat it too much. It's just if there was a tiebreaker to be made, that little baby bit of attack can be a little bit helpful. So when it comes to the bulk checks here, a lot of them are going to be based off of charge move breakpoints, so having 128 HP isn't going to be that consistent for Dubwool that have lower bulk. I'd say overall having closer to 130 HP is going to be a lot better. Another way you could sort through this list too is by using bulk product, because attack doesn't matter. Why would we need to factor in the attack stat when it comes to figuring out which Dubwool have the better stats, right? So stat product here is attack times defense times HP. Bulk product is just defense times HP. If you ever use PvPIVs.com and you want to access bulk product, you just got to use this checkbox down here. All the tables I have linked though should automatically have bulk product show up. And I'd say as a general rule, if you click on it, you can sort by it, right? If your bulk product is above 18,499, so you're at this level or higher, then you'll probably have enough bulk to make like the 129 and the 128 HP feel pretty consistent. If you are a little bit lower than that though, then you're probably going to focus on the 130 HPers, or just realize that you're riding it a little bit close to the edge there by not having that higher defense with the lower HP. If you have multiple IV options to choose from, another thing you can do to help determine which Dubwool will be the better Dubwool is to check these matchups on pvpoke.com. If your Dubwool is able to overcome these matchups against these opponents at however many different IV spreads, different attack weights you want to try to measure them against, then that'll probably be the better Dubwool, because this is what the bulk checks are mostly checking against. So that's another litmus test for you. And then there are also some defense breakpoints. The 141.6 is based off the Dugong defense breakpoint, and then a little bit higher, 141.8 is a minimum for Shadow Venusaur. For both Dugong and Shadow Venusaur, you'll probably need a higher defense stat than that. So that's something to keep in mind. For Dugong, I feel like 143.3 or higher defense can give you the defense breakpoint down there. And then there is also a defense breakpoint against Deoxys defense form, starting at 139.75. So that is something to keep in mind. Having that higher defense could help you out in those matchups. I'd say for all three of those matchups, though, I didn't notice it flipping any even scenarios, but Dubwool is a pretty like safe swap, uneven kind of Pokemon, so like every little bit kind of helps in those fights if you need something else to help guide you when choosing which Dubwool to build. And then if you have a Mondo high defense stat of 144.93 or higher, very likely you're going to want to have the higher. You can get a defense breakpoint against the Charm Shadow Alola Ninetales, enabling you to flip the 1-1 shield scenario. So Super Mondo high Dubwool will have a better chance of getting that. So if you were to sort this by like defense here, you could see the rank 2 has the higher defense of this pack and will probably have the most consistency for getting that defense breakpoint while also having that higher HP stat. And I'd say all factors considered, the ever so slight attack weight with the higher defense to help out against that matchup, and then having the minimum of 128 HP. I'd say the rank 2 Dubwool here is probably my favorite one if I had the option to pick and choose my IVs. But I'd say just about anything on this list, especially the ones that have the higher bulk product here, are going to be a-okay for Dubwool. And if you don't have any of the PvP IVs I just highlighted there, well, this is Spandilicio's Dubwool, the Dubwool he used to make day 2 at the Milwaukee Regional, and you can see that that is not the greatest looking Dubwool in the whole wide world. Now, of course, Spandilicio here is looking to get a higher bulk Dubwool, recognizing that the higher bulk would be better. But you know, shoot for the moon, land among the stars. If you don't get the best Dubwool ever, it doesn't mean that your Dubwool is completely worthless. Moving on over to the Ultra League PvP, things get a little bit more simple, but there are some things to look out for. Dubwool here at level 50, if you have the Hundo, powers up to 2478, which is really convenient. That's pretty straightforward. That is Ultra League approved, right? But you could maybe power it up. You could best buddy it to get to that level 51. But if you're the Hundo, well, now it's no longer Ultra League eligible. So if you want to use the best buddy, you'd have to be level 49.5. So then you can best buddy it to level 50.5. But this level 50.5 wouldn't be as good as the level 51 14, 15, 15, because that lower attack stat, it can power up one more time, and it's got much more bulk and basically the same attack stat as the Hundo here. So that can be a little bit confusing. To simplify things a little bit though, I got this table here featuring the better stat product Dubwool that you can get to level 51 or level 50 to help guide you a little bit. I will say overall, the 14, 15, 15 does feel like the best one because, you know, if you don't best buddy it, it's the same thing as the Hundo, but just like one lower attack stat, which isn't that big of a deal. There's no big important attack break points for Dubwool in the Ultra League that I noticed, so you're not really missing out. And then if you do want to best buddy it, you always have the option to just flip over to the best buddy and then get those bigger stats. So I think this one's probably the most convenient one, but the majority of the ones featured on this list here are obviously going to be a-okay, the Hundo included. Even the Hundo, if you have it at level 49.5 instead of level 50, let me just show you here. If you have the Hundo at level 49.5 instead of level 50, they have the same stamina stat. They have basically the same defense stat. So you're not really missing out on a whole lot, you know, if you were to flex your Hundo in the same way as the 14, 15, 15. So like overall, obviously there's like a peak that you can have in the Ultra League, that's the 14, 15, 15, but if you don't have that specific IV spread, a lot of the other IV spreads are perfectly a-okay in the grand scheme of things. I'd say for a bare minimum for the Dubwool IVs, I'd say 13, 13, 14 feels like a safe-ish minimum. Obviously you want to have higher IVs than that, but if you are lacking in the attack, the defense, the HP, just a little bit, but you're at least above that, then I think your Dubwool is perfectly a-okay to flex in and out of being a best buddy or not for the Ultra League. Just keep in mind the ones that you have to power up to 49.5 so they're not too big when you best buddy them. But I think these three are like the only relevant ones that have that situation going on, so I wouldn't overthink it. And if you happen to not find any of these IVs, a great thing about these bigger IV spreads is that if you were to lucky trade a friend, the lucky trade IV floor is 12, 12, 12, so there is a high probability of you rolling into these higher IVs if you do a lucky trade with someone. To add to that, Wooloo is part of the Go Battle League Pokemon rewards, and those have the IV floor of 10, 10, 10, so if you have a subpar IV spread, like you've got the 13, 13, 14, and you're just like, gee whiz, this is the minimum, but should I really build it? I think you'd probably be better off holding out for an even higher IV spread. But yeah, these ones, all pretty good. So that's about all I gotta say right now for Dubwool PvP IVs. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below. Let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description.